So today we're swapping a motor on a Craftsman LT1000. This motor shot. We're going to put that motor in. So the first thing we're going to do is get that out, disconnect all the electronics, throttle linkage, gas lines, all that good stuff. And then the first thing I'm going to start with is getting this pulley out from underneath it, right there. So remove this nut here, and you may have to use a pipe wrench to hold the shaft straight while you do that. Otherwise your shaft's going to want to rotate as you're loosening that nut. Loosening it counterclockwise. So I've got that bolt out. It was a 16 millimeter. I used a big breaker bar, put a pipe wrench right here to keep this assembly from rotating during that time. The next thing you want to do is remove your belts. And as you can see, we've got the belt routing in here, a tensioner pulley here, so you can detension that by pushing it in. Release some of the tension and get all your belts off there. And then the next thing you're going to do is remove this piece here, slide that down, which actually looks like it's going to slide right off for us. If it's rusted up and everything, you might need a pulley puller to get it out from your local auto parts store, but in this case we don't need that. You can see it's sliding right off, no big deal. So once your pulley's out of the way, the next thing you want to do is remove these 4 engine mounting bolts. You can kind of see them around right there. Remove those 4 bolts, and after that, if you've got everything else disconnected, all your exhaust and everything, you should just be able to lift the motor right out. So that's what's going to happen next. Okay, so I've got all my engine mounting bolts loose, except the one that's underneath this pulley here. It's kind of hard to see. So what I'm going to have to do to get that out is remove the 2 bolts that are holding this cover on. Get that cover out of the way. Once that's out of the way, I'm going to remove the front part of the spring that's right here. And the reason why I've removed the cover is so that I can get the spring back in after I take it back off. That way I have access from the front. And once I've got that spring out, I should be able to move that tensioner out of the way and remove that bolt. So actually what I ended up having to do was removing that spring I was showing you before, and then removing the bolt that holds the pulley in so I could get to this motor mounting bolt underneath it. Kind of a pain in the butt to get to, but I'm at it now and it's coming out. So after removing those 4 engine mounting bolts, I was able to lift the old engine right out. So I'm going to get the exhaust off of it, move that to the new motor, and go ahead and drop that new motor in. Okay, so now you've got your new motor dropped down in position. Here's the next tricky part. Take a couple of screws or bolts and drop them down in the mounting holes to kind of hold the motor straight, because this next part's going to suck. What you're going to have to do is take the old motor mounting bolts, spray a little lube on the threads, because these are not threaded on this motor. You're going to have to force these screws up in there and kind of, it's going to be like tapping the threads on the way in. So it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt, but that's what's going to have to happen. Like I said, make sure you put a little bit of WD-40 or something on these threads, lube them up. That way you don't get as much resistance as they're going through. So I've got the new motor in, all 4 of my motor mounting bolts back in. I'm in the process of putting this pulley back on. I actually had to remove that to get to that bolt underneath it. And then the next part is going to be seeing if I can get the spring back up in here. I did attach a zip tie to it so I could try to pull it back this way and get it back up in that hole right there without too much trouble, but we'll see how that goes. I'll let you know if I run into any issues or have any tips for you there. So yeah, to get that spring back in, I just used those zip ties, pulled on it, pushed it up into position, went right in. So from here, you just put your pulley back on, reconnect your muffler, your starter, your electronics, your throttle linkage, your gas lines. Make sure you fill it with oil and the oil level's correct, all that good stuff, and you are ready to roll. New motor installed. Thank you for watching. Enjoy.